morning. I would like to call this meeting to order. Thank you for joining us during our weekly MLS breakfast meeting. My name is William Wei from Pinnacle Real Estate Group, and I am your August MLS program chair. A little about me. I joined Pinnacle Real Estate in 2018, and I also joined on the MLS community in 2019 ever since. And a few housekeeping rules for today. So all participants will be muted upon entry to the MLS breakfast meeting. And should you have any questions or a comment, please remember to enter it into the chat box. Please remember to join us weekly as we have our virtual MLS breakfast meeting every Thursday at 9 a.m. As always, this meeting is being recorded and will be available online on our YouTube channel, West San Gabriel Valley Realtors. Please remember to follow WSGVR social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Our Facebook is at wsgv.realtors. Our Instagram is at WSGVR. YouTube channel is WSGVR TV. The Twitter is WSGVR. Make sure to subscribe to WSGVR text message service so you can get the latest information. Please text WSGVR to the number 72727. CRMLS quick tip. Zillow listing distribution. On January 19th of this year, Zillow became a brokerage in our area. This change impacted how CRMLS broker distributes listings to Zillow. Zillow is becoming a due-paying member of local, state, and national associations of realtors and making the switch to IDX feeds in every area it has chosen to become a brokerage. Zillow will show residential for sale listings at no charge, but has decided not to display for lease listings. Broker and agents who want their lease listings to appear on Zillow will need to enter it into a separate written agreement with Zillow. Please go to www.go.crmls.org/compliance for more information and resources. Today's agenda consists of our affiliate spotlight, Sage Gomez from MyNHD, followed by our guest speakers, Kevin Harbour and Chris Wilson of BizFed. Just a reminder that to be eligible for today's prizes, you must be a WSGVR member and your name must be displayed to win. No telephone numbers will be accepted. Today, our affiliate spotlight will be brought to you by the affiliate committee. Our chair, Sage Gomez from MyNHD, and Vice Chair Brandon Zavransky from First American NHD. And our affiliate spotlight is Sage Gomez today. Sage, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sage Gomez with MyNHD. I'm actually your affiliate chair for 2021, and 2022 is coming up in about 4.5 months. So we've been doing this all through Zoom this entire year. It's kind of crazy. Next slide, please. Once again, that's my information. So if you need to contact me regarding anything with natural hazard disclosures, please jot that down. Next slide. A little bit about MyNHD. We're backed by $10 million in E&O insurance. We do residential, commercial, and flood leases. We have a great 24-hour online ordering process and a great customer support team. And it's who you surround yourself with who makes you who you are. And I'm really grateful that I am who I am with this team. So next slide. A little bit of the more fun stuff. So the one vacation I did get to take during COVID was in North Carolina with my family. And we went white river rafting and it was so much fun. My sister and I were definitely scared about it at first, but the only person who fell was my dad. But he definitely did it on purpose. He slowly fell back. I think he just wanted to go in the water. Next slide, please. This is my boyfriend. We've been dating for about a year now, so I've been kind of keeping him a secret. But so far, so good. He's cool. We like him right now, so we'll keep you updated with him. And his name's Topher. Doesn't he look like a Topher with his long hair? So next slide. Another thing about my NHG is we have great animation. It's not working right now, but it's supposed to be out with a heart. So when you think of my NHG, you get all these cute little cartoons and animation because we just like to keep it lighthearted. And so all I ask is when you're choosing a natural hazard disclosure company, please keep my NHG in mind and also remember that we're one of the few companies that do provide not only the fire local disclosures, but we provide earthquake and flood as well. And that is not something all NHG companies do provide. So other than that, thank you for your time. And I can't wait to listen to the presentation today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sage. We will now have our affiliate introductions. Affiliates, please remember this is a morning greeting, no promotions. Our first is Judy Chow from AAA Capital Investments.
Good morning, this is Judy, Senior Loan. Can you hear me? Yes. Good morning, this is Judy, Senior Loan Officer. And if you have any question, help approve your client, please call me. Thank you.
Next, we have Angie Tan from Stewart Title.
Thank you, William. Good morning, everyone. Happy caravan to everyone. And this is Angie with Stewart Title. Thank you.
And next up is Mark Wu from Allstate Insurance.
Good morning, agency owner Mark Wolf with Allstate Insurance, servicing the insurance community locally for over 33 years. And we're happy to assist you with your property insurance needs.
Next up, we have John Wax from Snap NHD.
Good morning, everyone. John Wax with Snap NHD for all your NHD tax and environmental needs. I'll put my information in the chat. I wish you a wonderful week, and let's have a great presentation. Thank you so much.
And good morning to you, Nancy Chan from Lawyers Title.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Nancy Chan, Lawyers Title. Anytime you need help, give me a call. Thank you. Have a wonderful week.
And next up is Annie Fan, Chicago Title.
Good morning. This is Annie Fan, Chicago Title. Have an amazing Thursday.
Next, we have Teresa Lam, Corinthian Title.
Good morning. This is Teresa Lam with Corinthian Title Company for all your title needs. Have a nice weekend coming up.
And Sandy Franco from First American Home Warranty.
Good morning, everyone. Sandy Franco, First American Home Warranty. Have a fantastic day.
And next up, Cosmo Sanchez, New M Funding.
Good morning, everyone. Cosmo Sanchez with New M Funding. Thank you.
And thank you, everyone. Always remember to support our affiliates with your transactions. Next, we have our open pitch for today. We are happy to include open pitching on our virtual MLS Breakfast meeting. Today, we have a listing from Ash Risk of Coldwell Banker.
Hi, good morning. My name is Melissa Wyrick, and I'm pitching for Ash Risk, this beautiful brand new construction on 8534 East Fairview Avenue in San Gabriel. It will be open today from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Also just had a price reduction. It's now $2,368,000, and it's 2 on a lot. And it's very contemporary, brand new, on a quiet street, and best of all, it belongs to San Marino School District. So please come by and check it out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, please help me welcome Lucia Tam of our Legislative Committee, who will be introducing our guest speakers from BizFed, Kevin Harbour, the president of BizFed Institute, and Chris Wilson, the Public Policy Manager. Thank you, Lucia.
William, I apologize that Lucia is having some issues with the Wi-Fi. Let's see.
Okay, so please help me welcome Thomas.
Okay, I will. Good morning, everyone. It is an honor and privilege to have today's speaker. His name is Kevin Harbour. Kevin Harbour is a California native who is married and graduate of LA Loyola High School, and UCLA. Professionally, Kevin has had an individual contributor and executive manager career with Fortune 100 companies. He has worked for Xerox, Digital Equipment Corporation, now is Hewlett-Packard and Verizon. A tax service franchise owner, real estate investor, as well as have been the director of corporate strategic partnership and business development with UCLA Alumni Association. Prior to coming aboard with BizFed as the Chief Development Officer and President of BizFed Institute. Kevin's volunteer track record includes participation in Supervisor Mark Ridley Thomas, Empowerment Congress, and Suit for Solidarity. UCLA Black Alumni Association past president, and a life member of Kappa Alpha PSI fraternity. Kevin is an avid chess player, occasional golfer, and an admirer of fine and home cooked cuisine. So let's welcome Mr. Kevin Harbour. Kevin.
Thank you very much.
Yours, Kevin.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here this morning. And I know that I got a text from Chris that he was having some technical problems. So hopefully he has joined us.
I'm here.
Will be.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Excellent. All right. So with that said, as you were told, my name is Kevin Harbour. I'm the president of BizFed Institute. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. Our mission is to equip, engage, educate, and provide a platform with resources for discussion with regional stakeholders around issues that affect our regional economy. And so we do forums in housing, energy, transportation, and most recently, the digital divide. And I'm honored to be here to be able to introduce Chris Wilson, LA County Business Federation, better known as BizFed's Public Policy Manager. Chris began working for the California State Legislature in 2008 as an intern, and then project coordinator for California Assembly Member Wilmer Amina Carter of Rialto, 62nd Assembly District. He continued his service in the Assembly, where he joined the Assembly Office of Assembly Member Bonnie Lowenthal of Democrat Long Beach in February of 2009 as a case manager and field representative. He then transitioned to work for Assembly Member Lowenthal in her Sacramento office for 2 years as a legislative aide. Chris joined the team of Assembly Member Mike Gibson in 2014 as a field representative, then went on as a senior field representative, communications consultant, acting chief of staff, and district director. Chris lives in Signal Hill and was appointed by the Signal Hill City Council as the youngest person of color to serve on the city's planning commission in 2017. He was then reappointed in 2021 and must have done a good job there, Chris. And he was also appointed by Supervisor Janice Hahn in 2020 to serve on LA Metro's Community Advisory Council. Currently, Chris is a public policy manager for the, as I told you earlier, with BizFed, LA County Business Federation, and he's responsible for issues involving housing and land use, CEQA, responsible governance, transportation, and trade. So Chris is a graduate of Cerritos Community College with a major in liberal arts and sciences and a minor in business administration. He also earned his Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Phoenix in communications. So with no further ado, I give you Chris Wilson.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks for that amazing introduction. And thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the West San Gabriel Valley Realtors Association. I really appreciate you having me here, you having BizFed, as partners. We work very closely with you guys. We want to be able to serve alongside you to make sure that, our legislators and our lawmakers and our local officials hear our voice, hear the voice of business, because it's just so crucial. So I'm going to share my screen, if that's okay. I have a brief presentation, very brief. Hopefully I'll keep you guys all awake. I won't bore you too much. And then after the Q&A, we'll have a little question and answer, and I'd be more happy to, interact with that. So as Kevin mentioned, can anyone see my screen first of all before I move forward? As Kevin mentioned, we're a small team, but we wield a mighty sword. We cover an array of issues at BizFed, from housing and land use to also a COVID-19 recovery task force, broadband, which is in, from my perspective on the policy side, but Kevin is kind of the expert in that when it comes to broadband and closing the digital divide. The West San Gabriel Valley Realtors Association is a member of BizFed. So we really appreciate the working relationship and the partnership on some of the most pressing issues California is facing, especially the housing crisis. So I'll go on to the first slide. Who we are and what do we stand for? So I wanted to list kind of our policy positions on an array of issues covering land use, obviously, and also CEQA. Some of the issues range from our opposition to any tampering of Prop 13, including split roll. That was in the legislature a couple of years back, and we wanted to be able to advocate against it because it does no good. There's a lot of window dressing that we're seeing in the legislature, and making sure that people really understand the details and the effects that these policies have is really, really important. CEQA, and that's the second to last bullet point. CEQA has been weaponized since its inception. And I'll give you an example. You could have a project that really tends to go forward, but there's someone that cries wolf or cries CEQA, and that project could be held up, and they don't even have to identify themselves. And so there's a lot of things wrong with CEQA. We understand the political landscape in the legislature. So we also have a position of mend it, not end it. We want to be able to ensure that CEQA is used for the right purpose and not used in malicious lawsuits and et cetera, et cetera. We also understand that there's there's the elephant in the room when it comes to RHNA numbers, which is the Regional Housing Needs Assessment. There's a lot of pressure for local governments. I live in Signal Hill, and we're a 2-mile city. If you know where we are, we're completely surrounded by Long Beach, and we have to make 516 units available. So that's a lot for our small cities. So I know when the public hearing came up for a lot of cities to express their concerns, I think every city in the SCAG region expressed their concerns about meeting the RHNA numbers. The fact that they have a lot of, whether they're on oil fields, whether they're in fire zones. So there's a lot of concern from and the fact that local governments don't have the tools to be able to produce housing. Redevelopment went away in 2011 under Governor Brown. And are we seeing it coming back? We're seeing some, and I'll go into it in a couple slides. The fact that we have one bill that's looking to actually address some sort of return of redevelopment. So let me move forward on that. So what's on our radar here at BizFed? And what should be on your guys' radar also? We know the housing element is coming. I'm sure most of you are aware of that. There's a hearing coming up, I believe on the 24th of August. So we're going to be front and center on that. SoCal Greenprint. This is a very controversial issue from SCAG. A lot of these policies are well intended, but the devils are really in the details. SoCal Greenprint was created by SB 743, initiated by then Senator Pro Tem Darrell Steinberg. Now he's the mayor of Sacramento. But it locally, one of the arms of SB 743 was to allow for regions to create this tool to be able to look at where housing could be placed. The issue with SoCal Greenprint from our perspective is, number one, it uses SB1 funds to actually fund the program. We have a position on making sure SB1 funds are solely for transportation and nothing else. That's the problem that we're facing right now with SoCal Greenprint. The voters upheld SB1 to make sure that it goes to roads and bridges and things are needed for infrastructure, not crossing over to things that are not in its wheelhouse. Number two, there was a vendor that was charged with actually looking to initiate SoCal Greenprint, the Natural Resource Defense Council, which there was no say-so in that process from a lot of stakeholders, especially the business community. And so, long story short, we advocated very fiercely, and we're proud that, you know, in early September, there will be a public hearing just on this item, SoCal Greenprint. So we consider that a win, because again, it's making sure that our voices are heard at the business level. Too many times we get overshadowed. Too many times our voices get drowned out. So we want to make sure our voices are front and center at the table. Vehicle miles traveled. This is another, you know, initiation under SB 743. So VMT, you know, we want to make sure that all types of housing is available. And VMT really penalizes a lot of the working class people that are trying to build generational wealth, that are trying to make sure that where they live, that there's housing affordability. But, you know, with tools like VMT, again, well-intended, but the devil is really in the details. It really, you know, taxes people that you know, are trying to buy a house, So, you know, we're you know, we know that a lot of cities are facing this. You know, we're front and center trying to advocate and slow it down. We've joined along with our business coalition members to be able to ask Governor Newsom and the legislature to pause VMT, to make sure that we really look at the whole picture. And again, there needs to be input from all levels, and we can't just make sure we can't just let other people dictate our needs. You know, there's a array of housing bills in the legislature, SB 15, which I know you guys are very familiar with. We're actually sponsoring that bill. SB 679, which is by Assembly Member Cindy Comliger, that would create a LA County housing affordability agency, I believe, within the county. I believe it's 19 voting members, not elected, you know, and, you know, as these boards and commissions get created, we're just talking about another layer of bureaucratic, you know, lines that aren't unnecessary. And SB 12, that's by Senator Mike McGuire, that would be able to, again, it's looking at wildfires. California, we have a huge wildfire issue. Matter of fact, there's a couple of wildfires in Northern California at the moment. Making sure that SB 12 is equitable and really speaks to what it's needed for. What it doesn't need to be geared towards is allowing agencies like the Office of Planning and Research to have more authority than the state fire marshal. That's, you know, if we're talking about public safety, that, you know, then let's have feedback from the state fire marshal and not another layer of government with the Office of Planning and Research. So, you know, we were very happy that, you know, when this bill was up on local government before the legislature broke for recess, that two members, Assembly Member Brian Manshine and Assembly Member Sharon Crook Silva, voted to abstain on this bill, which essentially not necessarily killed it, because the author can bring it up for reconsideration, but it did prevent it from moving forward, which was a small victory. But we're looking to advocate again and make sure that those two members hold strong, but other members also are educated, like Assembly Member Jesse Gabriel, who sits on that committee, who was very concerned about how this bill has unintended consequences when it comes to homelessness. So really making sure that, again, legislatures are really educated on the types of bills that they're actually looking to either consider or author. And lastly, eviction moratoriums on this page. What I mean, eviction moratoriums, we've seen extensions after extensions, whether it's the federal government who just initiated it under CDC, the legislature a few times, and this expires by the end of September. But going back to, equality and being equitable, making sure that not only, renters have the resources, but also landlords do too. Making sure that people are able to move forward, because if you're telling renters that they can only pay 80%, that puts a auspicious strain on the actual landlords. So where's that resources going to come from? So making sure that, again, people understand that these are unintended consequences when it comes to eviction moratoriums. Sounds great in the media, but there's a lot of concern from our perspective moving forward. I talked about SB 15 briefly. This is our priority bill for the year. SB 15 is unfortunately being held by the Assembly Rules Committee. So call to action, let me give you a plug. Please call Speaker Anthony Rendon, Assemblymember Ken Cooley, who's chair of the Assembly Rules Committee, to release not only this bill, but there's a number of housing bills that are being held. And we understand in the fact that it's for political reasons. There was an article from Cal Matters that came out that cited that that the building trades and other labor unions, unless that they contain some sort of prevailing wage and some sort of skilled workforce, that there's concern about them moving forward. So, we can look at this two ways: the fact that the speaker wants to send a message to labor unions that we're not going to release any of these bills, to not allow for your members to move forward and have these skilled workforce identifiers in this, or the speaker wants to protect their members from any retaliation. So it's purely political. But we can't let the political theater get involved with the crisis that we're in. We're in a housing crisis. This is a good bill, and this is one of the few bills that business and labor actually are coming together. This bill converts idle commercial sites to actual housing, all types of housing, affordable housing, market rate housing, which actually people say that there's too much market rate housing. Well, the data shows that there's actually not enough. There's so much focus on affordable housing and low income housing that we're missing the quota under RENA for actually market rate housing. So that was something that is not really widely exposed because it's a non-sexy issue. Talk about market rate housing, right? So SB 15 by Senator Portantino, we've been a great partner with him. We also want to thank the Realtors Association, because we know that they were very key in helping craft this bill. This is a continuation from last year's bill, SB 1299, which we also were the key sponsor. The issue with that bill is, as many of you know, the clock ran out on a lot of these bills in the legislature. So a lot of these bills just either didn't go nowhere or just died because the clock ran out. So it wasn't that they were defeated. It's just that there was not enough time in the legislative process last year. So SB 15 is a very, very important bill. As I mentioned about redevelopment, it does continue some sort of piece of redevelopment because it's looking at idle commercial sites that retailers have said, what, we're not going to move forward with this brick and mortar office space. We're just going to go with remote access, make sure that our workforce is online, and working remotely. Well, these idle sites have the ability to be able to be converted into housing, and the monies from this would come from in the form of a grant from the Housing and Community Development. So this is again supported by business and labor, and I've actually listed some of the organizations that are in support of it. Not only the building trades, but the California Contract Cities Association, the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments, Southern California Association of Governments, SCAG, the South Bay Cities Council of Governments, and a host of more. So again, we are in a housing crisis, but if we're going to actually attempt to actually look at how we can fix it, we need to release these types of bills that are going to be able to actually address the issue. So, and I believe this is one of the last slides. Some of the victories that we wanted just to be able to showcase, not necessarily to be able to brag about BizFed, but also to let people know that when you organize, because BizFed was what was really created by the essence of how labor organized. So we are a business organizing industry. So a lot of these victories are from the local level. So when it comes to Measure R and Measure M, I know that's transportation related, but there is some sort of marriage with transportation and housing, as you can imagine. So there was an item on the agenda on the LA Metro docket that would have updated and modernized Measure R and Measure M, two initiatives that was passed by the voters and passed by the business community for transportation funds. And LA Metro was looking to modernize it to look at how they could expand it beyond transportation. And it's something that it would just lose confidence in the voters. So we stood up and said, this is not right. We want to make sure that if you're going to do this, let's be transparent. Let's have everyone at the table. So we were able to ask them and commit them to a full report before they move forward. SoCal Green Print, I talked about that before. AB 255, which was by Assemblymember Almer Suchiano Torrance. We were instrumental in killing AB 255 that would have hurt small property owners, really pick winners and losers, and allow inappropriate involvement by the state with private parties. Essentially, we're talking about there's assistance for renters and for small business owners, but where is the assistance for the small business that actually own the actual properties? So that's what AB 255 would have done, and that's what I mean by picking winners and losers. There was a rent stabilization ordinance that was brought up by the LA City Council Housing Committee. We were able to water it down. It would have increased fees and placed unnecessary burdens on housing providers. And the proposed item was turned into a study bill, allowing all stakeholders to be at the table. And that's what we're really asking. That's what we're really asking. A lot of these items were just asked really to be at the table, because once we're at the table, we can have our experts actually speak to, well, this is actually affecting our community, affecting our business complex. But unless our voices are not heard, the legislature will always continue to receive political feedback from the voices that are the strongest in Sacramento. And we need to make sure that we continue to organize. And SB 12, I mentioned it. And we urge you to look into this bill also to continue to oppose this. I'm not too sure where your organization stands on this, but it will come back up for reconsideration before the Senate. Before the Assembly Local Government Committee, and we want to make sure that those two members, Assemblymember Sharon Crook Silva and Assemblymember Brian Manshine, continue to stronghold in opposing or abstaining on this bill, because it really puts a lot of bureaucratic people above public safety. And we're talking about, not exacerbating the current housing crisis. That's what this bill does. There's really no data that we've seen that really says that a lot of these houses that are in very high, what they call very high fire hazard zones, that are really in jeopardy. So this bill stops the housing development in a lot of those bills and puts that decision-making process from the Office of Planning and Research and not the state fire marshal, which it's counterproductive as to what we're trying to do, as in protecting people. So that's a real brief presentation. Let's see, from our organization. Again, we appreciate the West San Gabriel Valley Realtors Association and their continued partnership, their advocacy, and being really a good steward in making sure that a lot of these bills that are affecting really your industry and your bottom line, it makes it to the decision makers, whether it's at the local levels, the regional levels, or the state, or even the federal levels. So again, my issues are housing and land use, CEQA, transportation and trade, broadband, and responsible governments, which really is a fancy way of just saying taxes. So I am here to be able to be, a partner to you on behalf of BizFed. That's my cell phone number on the screen and my email. I'm always available. And with that, I want to thank you for having us. I look forward to continuing to working alongside with you guys to making sure that how we can work really in unison and making sure that we produce the biggest impact for the business community. So thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Chris and Kevin, for doing such a great presentation today. We're going to have a few questions, and one of them being in the housing industry, Chris. As you know, homelessness is one of the issues that we are dealing with big time nowadays, and all the cities or counties are trying to mitigate this issue. There's a lack of locations for them to find housing for the homeless. How do you see the homeless issue being mitigated? Are there any policies being worked on right now? And how would the value of real estate be affected by whatever the counties or the state decides to do?
That's a very good question, and that's a question that's kind of really the elephant in the room when it comes to homelessness. Number one, many of you may or may not have seen that a couple of days ago, I think it was 2 days ago, I was going to call him Senator, but Councilman Kevin De Leon's away home policy was officially passed. That would produce 25,000 housing units for not only for housing, but for also the homelessness for homeless folks by 2025. So we're seeing a lot of people and a lot of lawmakers actually start to take homelessness very seriously. But it has to be really transparent and really honest in how we have a conversation about this. And I'll give you an example. During the pandemic, before the pandemic, we saw there was a huge cry out for, there's this, homelessness people are just looking for resources. They need places to go to. Where can we, we can't just ship them from one place to another. That makes no sense, because if we're removing one problem or put it in, in somewhere else. If you look at what some of the initiatives that were produced during the pandemic, right, which was Operation Home Key, Operation House Key, these were never any initiatives that were produced by the state government before the pandemic, when we were actually talking about it. And the business community was very, very loud, because we have an anti-poverty campaign to lift 1 million Angelenos out of poverty and not let them sink into homelessness. But the state government, just kicked the can down the road, really just threw money at the problem. But coincidentally, Operation House Key and Room Key were produced during the pandemic. So I like to say, in my opinion, I like to think that if the state really took it seriously, that they could really understand the effect homelessness is having, not only in our communities, but for our businesses. And also, a lot of people are very concerned about their own home value. And I live in Signal Hill. We've never had a real homelessness problem until recently. We're getting a huge spillover from Long Beach. So there's a lack of shelters, a lack of resources, a lack of just understanding that if we're really going to solve homelessness, we need to be honest and transparent about the issue in hand, and we can't just kick the can down the road, which I'm praying that as we continue to have conversations about housing and housing production, meeting arena numbers, that we also include homelessness and houselessness in that equation, because it's so vital. But I think that the legislature is learning a lot of lessons that are coming out of this pandemic, and I really believe in my heart that homelessness is one of them.
Thank you, Chris. Affecting us right now, which is something very new, is the digital divide. A lot of us have not been able to catch up on all this new technology, and the real estate industry by far has been affected very greatly. How do you see all this affecting the real estate industry in the future?
A great question again. Again, this pandemic has created a new normal for us, and with along with these variants, the Delta, the Lambda, and the whole host of others that may or may not come, the reality may be that we operate on a hybrid system, whereas there's a brick and mortar place for people to go to, but there's also an option for people to work remotely. For those who work remotely, there needs to be broadband access, right? So we were very excited to have a senior advisor from GoBiz, from their broadband department, come to us and speak to us, and really, look for our leadership and how we can be able to break down the important aspects of broadband and the lack thereof. What we saw with SB 156 and AB 156, which many of you saw, which were budget trailer bills that really did a lot for broadband. It will create a czar for broadband in California. It's really going to be able to finance a lot of these, lay down more fiber in a lot of these public housing projects. But we're also excited that we're supporting bills like SB 743 by Senator Steve Bradford that really sets up grants for the ISPs to be able to take advantage of through the Public Utilities Commission, which is the agency that will be leading that effort for broadband, to be able to lay broadband. And also AB 1425 by my former boss, Assembly Member Mike Gibson, that would be able to look at a lot of the public housing projects, like in Watts, there's Jordan Downs and Nickerson Gardens, people to allow for them to have broadband access at no cost to them. Again, these would be grants that are shifted over. So, I think that the federal government is starting to understand the importance of broadband. And again, it's unfortunately, it's taken a pandemic, right? A pandemic for us to really, for our lawmakers and decision makers to really understand that we need to stop kicking the can down the aisle and look at the issues, how this is affecting homelessness, how this is affecting housing production, how this is affecting broadband and the lack thereof. But also education too. There's this huge debate on whether or not kids could go back to school because of the variant, and there's a whole array of issues with that. Well, making sure that schools have the necessary infrastructure to be able to provide for that learning environment is also key. So, those are two key bills. We have a budget trailer bill that's looking to address broadband, but it's a issue that I'm laser focused on. BizFed is laser focused on. I know you guys are laser focused on, because it really. Sorry, I live over a airport, so I got a lot of planes at all times of the hour. So making sure that broadband is part of that discussion, because that's going to be our new normal, unfortunately, right? I guess fortunately or unfortunately, because of the convenience. But that needs to be part of that infrastructure conversation that we're having, and we're hoping that Congress, looks at some of the hopefully the great things that the Senate passed, the U.S. Senate passed in their infrastructure bill when it comes to broadband, and not lose focus of what the important issue is. So thank you for the question.
Thank you, Chris. And one last one from me is, as you know, the RENA requirements right now throughout the state, they're very great. A lot of cities find that the numbers that requirements that where they need to come up with new housing is something that they may not be able to reach. Between the older folks and the millennials and the new younger generation who have different style of living. How do you see the building industry density of building being affected on this?
Oh, that's a really loaded question, but I'll try to unpack as much as possible. You know, what we're seeing with the new millennial generation in like reports that I've been seeing is they're really getting accustomed to a new lifestyle. Renting matches their lifestyle. You know, they much rather have somebody come and fix their toilet, their sink, their shower, whatever, versus having to pay for it themselves. So I think that we're seeing a change in how people are looking at housing. But there are still some people, like myself, hopefully one day, that would love to actually own a home because it does build generational wealth, you know, and that's the greatest hedge, or one of the greatest hedges against inflation. So when it comes to housing production, the best thing that government could do is get out of the way, really, because there's so much regulation. You know, we're seeing it in SB 12, where there's agencies that are looking that really don't, that their portfolio is not of housing production, but they're looking at housing production, right? CEQA continues to be one of the elephants in the room when it comes to halting important projects. So a lot of the business community, we're having to look at innovative and creative ways on how we produce housing. SB 15 is you know, one of them that will, again, I'm going to put a plug, but to convert idle commercial sites to housing. So it's that type of thinking that we have to be able to have, but also educate our lawmakers. You know, you have to look at the makeup of who our lawmakers are, what their niches are, and to be able to go to the right person, right? So I can be able to tell you, because I've been in the legislature for about 12 years. Now, the future members, I can't tell, but the current members, right? Like the Tony Atkinses of the world, the Anthony Rendons, I can tell you what their niches are. So if they're not strong, right, on one particular issue, we have to be able to just say, hey, you know, we're, you know, Majestic Realty, we're Crown Castle, which, you know, leads the way in laying down fiber and broadband. To, you know, to educate, this is what it means for our members, and this is how we can help you. But we need to be able to understand that our lawmakers aren't going to have all the answers, but we may have some intel, some knowledge on how this is going to affect our communities. And housing seems to be the issue year after year, budget after budget, and we can't just keep throwing money at the problem, putting bonds before people, throwing money. That's great, but it's not the answer. It's looking at it's created a clearinghouse, right, in California, looking at all our regulations on what is stifling housing, what is halting housing production. You know, if we're really serious about having to meet these auspicious SCAG numbers, then we need to have a real conversation on how we actually work to produce these housing projects. So until then, we're to just keep on going round and round, and it's talking about how important, you know, housing is, the fact that we're in a housing crisis. You know, the honest truth is we're not producing housing fast enough as our population is growing, right? So we have to make sure that we really look at the regulations, whether it's CEQA, whether it's, you know, a lot of these bills that may be well intended in like Senator Mike McGuire's mind or others, but the devil is really in the details, and looking sure on how we streamline housing production to produce more, you know, whether it's infill projects, whether it's you know, ADUs. I think ADUs are creative, you know, ADUs are accessory dwelling units. They're a real creative, innovative way to produce more housing. They should be part of those SCAG arena numbers. So things like that. You know, Councilmember Mike Bonin in Venice is looking at tiny homes. He has a housing crisis, and well, we don't have a housing crisis, but he has a housing epidemic in Venice. Some people are calling Venice Hotel California, right? Just because there's some people that are living on the beaches in Venice, and so there something has to give, whether it's more access to broadband or the lack thereof, more access to home ownership, creating a pathway from home ownership, but we need to be able to organize together as a business community and to be able to inform our members is they need to hear our voices. They need to hear our voices. So I know you can hear the passion in my voice because I'm just so passionate about these types of subjects because I really live and breathe these types of issues. So thank you for the question.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank
And
you, Chris.
we
William,
need to
yeah,
move
take it
along,
away.
with the program. But I do have, questions from the chat box. Mario asked, with income earnings stagnated for years, housing prices up, construction costs up, and many cities do not have space or infrastructure. How can affordable housing be accomplished?
That's a really good question, and I may not have the answer to that, but I'll go back to looking at the prices that are used to be able to build housing. Lumber is very, very expensive in California. We're seeing an increase in a lot of costs in California, and looking at those types of regulations, higher taxes, excise tax, there's a proposal that will be able to slap an excise tax on corporations or business investors who look at idle commercial sites for housing. So there's a lot of unformed decision makers at the state level, at the regional level, that really don't understand the repercussions that they're producing. So that question is more of a equity, equality, wealth gap type question, because it is very high in California. It's very expensive to live in California, but reports are showing that people are leaving California. Businesses are leaving California because of the high taxes, because of the high costs. So I think that's more of a wealth equity gap, and how do we bridge that? But I think that one of the ways that we could be able to build more generational wealth and income is creating a pathway for home ownership and educating our young leaders about the importance of financial literacy.
Thank you. And one last question so we can move forward. Homelessness requires more than housing. Will these units also provide octo medical and rehabilitation services?
That's a really good question. I think that they should. A lot of these projects, are don't include that, right? Whether you're a veteran that's homeless, you may not need a sandwich. You actually may need resources to get your USTA benefits that you've worked so hard for, sacrificed your life for, or you may be a mother, or you may be a child. So we can't just assume that just because you're homelessness that you're looking for the next high, or the next access to a food or a beverage. That making sure that these types of projects provide, especially when it comes to housing projects or workforce housing, that they include wraparound services. But again, we have to be able to educate. If these are on our minds, they should be on our decision makers' minds as well. Very good question.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. We definitely feel your enthusiasm, and we hopefully we can welcome you back in the near future. And on behalf of West San Gabriel Valley of Realtors, we would like to thank Mr. Harbour and Mr. Wilson for their very informative presentation. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right. Next, we have our attendance drawing. And if you are a winner, please remember to type your DRE member name and email in the chat box. Congratulations, Paxton Chu. Are you online?
Paxton is here.
All right. And please
Wait, hold
remember
on.
to type your name.
Yeah, make sure he does, because if he doesn't get his $10.
Yeah. And we have Kimberly Shi.
Let's see if she's here. Hold on.
And we still don't have you.
I don't
Paxton.
think that Kimberly is here. I can't
All right.
find her.
Brandon Saransky.
He was here. He left.
Congratulations, Brandon. He left?
Yeah, he left.
Too bad.
One.
Althea Chow. Is Althea
Let me
here?
see. Let me see. Hold on. I'm here. Nobody calls me. Okay. She's here. He, whoever.
Althea, if you're
Can you,
here, please
can
type your name
you
and
type in
email.
your name, email?
Yes, please. And Paxton?
Okay. Paxton hasn't text.
Yep.
This person, Afi Chow, is not texting.
We're just gonna keep drawing until somebody types there. Next winner, Lorraine.
All right, Clark.
Congratulations, Lorraine.
Okay, that's 2. Paxton, can we make sure that Paxton doesn't reply? If not, then we have third one. Can we make sure that Paxton is here?
It's been a long time for him. So Paxton, are you able to type or are you able to
Okay, so let's see.
acknowledge you're here?
Sandy left. So the third one, this is the third drawing, third person. Lorraine, we got you. Thank you.
Earl Newson.
Earl's not here.
Yeah. Earl's not here. We still don't have Paxton. Jeff Huang.
Is
Jeff here?
Yeah. No, I have Jeffrey Hua. No, not Jeff Huang. Jeff is not here.
All right, next one, please.
So hard.
Sean, I know you're here, Sean. Chase Kerr.
Chase was here. Oh, he's still here.
Congratulations, Chase. Please acknowledge you're here. Type your name and email address. We still do not have Paxton, so we got Althea, Lorraine.
We have 3. And
Chase.
Chase, you're here. We know. Okay, we're done.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Thank you. All right. So please make sure to participate in our education classes. A list of upcoming classes are displayed on your screen. We got the 2021 Code of Ethics training on Friday, August 13th from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. It is free for our WSGBR primary members. We have a 2-day green designation course, virtual class only, happening on Monday and Tuesday of August 16th and 17th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. It is free for WSGBR members only. Virtual Zip Form Plus training, it is happening on Monday, August 16th from 9:30 a.m. to 12:30 a.m. Cost is free. And we also have our C.A.R. MLS virtual training on matrix time-saving tips. I have taken that course. It's very useful. It's on Wednesday, August 18th, and from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. The cost is also free. Thank you. And please make sure to register for the C.A.R. EXPO coming soon. It is happening virtually on October 5th to October 7th. And please also join us next week as we welcome our very own Global Business Council next week on August 19th at 9 a.m. And please also remember to support our affiliates with all of your transactions. This meeting is now adjourned.